Welcome to Calm Coding. This is our weekly deep dive into the latest cybersecurity news.
That's right. We sort through what's happening and try to break down what you really need to know.
Our goal is always to cut through that noise, find the core insights.
And give you a clearer picture of the threat landscape right now so you can understand what's going on and, well, why it should matter to you.
Absolutely. So this week, we're looking at some, pretty varied incidents, things hitting food supply chains,
Software reliability issues.
sensitive government data leaks, and even, believe it or not, the printer may be sitting on your desk.
Wow, okay. And plus, there's a look at state-sponsored stuff and the growing role of AI in, well, all of this.
It really shows how cybersecurity risks are just everywhere now.
Yeah, truly pervasive.
Okay, so let's unpack this. First up, something we keep seeing again and again. Ransomware.
And this one hit close to home for a lot of people, I think. The food supply chain.
Yeah, we're talking about an attack on Peter Greenshield. They're a UK logistics company.
Right, and they handled chilled and frozen food distribution. We're talking major supermarkets.
Exactly. Big names rely on them. So the attack itself, it happened May 14th?
That's right. And they had to let customers know pretty much straight away on the 15th.
And the immediate effect was, what? A complete stop.
Yeah, they had to halt processing new orders, stop deliveries, just grind to a halt temporarily.
Wow. And you could feel that ripple effect, right? Co-op, M&S, Tesco, Sainsbury's, Aldi, all impacted.
It really shows you how these single points in the chain can cause major disruption downstream.
Definitely. And did we get any sense of the financial impact?
Well, one business, a food brand called the Black Farmer, they actually put a figure out there.
Oh, yeah.
They estimated potential losses around $133,000 per week.
Per week, just because that one supplier couldn't deliver?
That's what they reported. It's a staggering amount tied to just one single ransomware event hitting one company.
That is truly eye-opening. And do we know who did it or how?
Details are still pretty thin on the ground, actually. The attackers, the method, even the ransom demand, we don't have specifics.
And data theft. Is that part of it?
Also unconfirmed. Though, it's increasingly common for these groups to steal data before they encrypt. Adds another layer of pressure.
Right, the double extortion thing. So what this really shouts is just how vulnerable these, critical supply links are.
Absolutely. An attack on a company most people have never heard of can suddenly mean groceries aren't getting to your local store shelf.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah, it really backs up that expert view we saw, doesn't it?
It does. That cybersecurity for retail, for logistics, it needs the same kind of seriousness, the same investment as we think about for like power grids or water.
Because the real-world impact can be just as disruptive to daily life. Protecting those digital systems, it's not just an IT problem anymore.
Not at all. It's fundamental.
Okay, so moving from physical goods getting stuck to the software that's supposed to keep things running smoothly.
Yes. This next one is fascinating. It's where the supposed fix actually caused the chaos.
We're talking about the Delta Airlines lawsuit against CrowdStrike, the cybersecurity firm.
Exactly. This goes back to last year. There was let's call it a faulty software update from CrowdStrike.
Faulty seems mild. It caused widespread disruption, right? The blue screen of death.
Yep. Across loads of Windows devices, hit banks, airlines like Delta, broadcasters. It was pretty chaotic for a bit there.
And Delta seems to have got it particularly bad.
Reports suggest they did. Took them 5 days to fully recover, apparently, which was significantly longer than rivals like American or United.
5 days for an airline, that's huge. And they grounded more planes, too.
Substantially more, based on the reports. So naturally, they sued.
And what were their main arguments?
They claimed CrowdStrike pushed out this update without proper permission, that it bypassed Microsoft's own certification processes.
And crucially, that it wasn't tested properly.
Right. Now, CrowdStrike admitted there was a flaw, but they argued Delta's slow recovery was down to Delta's own choices and systems.
So, passing the buck a bit, what claims did Delta make? Breach of contract.
That, plus trespass, negligence, and even fraud. Pretty serious allegations.
And CrowdStrike tried to get these dismissed?
They filed a motion to dismiss most of them, yeah.
Yeah.
But the judge didn't agree on everything.
Okay. So what's moving forward?
The court said the trespass and negligence claims are valid, and parts of the fraud claim were also upheld.
So the lawsuit proceeds. Interesting. Any idea what the stakes are financially?
Well, CrowdStrike's own outside lawyers estimated a potential loss, worst case in the single-digit millions, which isn't nothing, but maybe less than you'd guess given the disruption.
And Delta's reaction.
They said they were pleased with the ruling. Understandably.
This whole case, it really puts a spotlight on software vendor responsibility, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Especially for updates that affect critical systems.
It just highlights the massive real-world cost and disruption that buggy software can cause to businesses and ultimately to the services you use every day. It's not just a technical glitch.
No, it has very tangible consequences.
Okay, let's switch gears again, this time to sensitive personal data, government-held data.
Right. This involves the UK's legal aid database. The Ministry of Justice, the MOJ, revealed recently they were hit by a cyber attack.
They were alerted back in April, I think.
Late April, yeah. And they've confirmed that a significant amount of data was actually stolen.
And we're talking really sensitive stuff here, potentially going back over a decade to 2010.
That's the time frame, yes. Data could include contact details, addresses, birth dates, national ID numbers.
And even things like criminal history, employment status, financial details related to the aid.
Exactly. Contribution amounts, debts, payments, really personal, sensitive information.
And the scale isn't known. There were some reports.
A hacking group claimed they got 2.1 million records. The MOJ hasn't confirmed that specific number, but...
But even if it's close, that's enormous. 2.1 million records.
Just imagine.
It's a huge potential exposure. And the immediate impact is they've taken the legal aid online services offline.
As a precaution, presumably?
Yes. And they're issuing advice now to anyone who might have applied for legal aid since 2010.
What kind of advice?
Basically, be extremely vigilant. Watch out for unexpected calls, texts, emails asking for info.
Standard phishing warnings, but amplified because the data might be very specific.
Precisely. They're urging people to update passwords, especially weak or reused ones, and always verify independently before sharing anything. Don't trust the caller ID or email address.
And it's not just the applicants affected, is it? This data likely touches lawyers, other organizations too.
That's a key point. Barristers, solicitors, maybe nonprofits involved in the system, their data could be exposed as well.
It really broadens the impact.
It does. And experts are framing this not just as like an IT failure. It's seen as a breach of trust, of privacy, especially for potentially very vulnerable people relying on that system. And given the scale of legal aid funding, what was it, over £2 billion administered last year?
£2.3 billion in 2023-24. It shows this isn't some minor government database. It's significant.
So it really underlines the need for, well, stronger defenses in the public sector.
Stronger defenses, quicker updates, better transparency when things do go wrong. It's critical.
This is just such a stark reminder that sensitive data held by governments is a massive target.
And breaches like this can have really profound damaging consequences for individuals and for the systems meant to support them.
Okay, prepare for a slightly unexpected turn now. We've gone from government databases to printers.
Yes, printers. Specifically, printers from a manufacturer called ProColored, based in China.
And the issue wasn't the printer hardware itself, but the software that came with it.
Exactly. It turns out they were, apparently inadvertently, distributing malware through the software installers you'd use to set up the printer.
Wow, how did that even get discovered?
This is the kicker. Cybersecurity researchers found it after getting a tip from a YouTube content creator.
A YouTuber, just reviewing a printer.
That's the story. Just doing a standard product review and noticed something fishy, tipped off the researchers.
That is genuinely wild. Shows security issues can pop up anywhere. How long was this going on?
Seems like about 6 months, starting around October 2024, and it affected quite a few models.
Which ones?
6 product lines,
Gotcha.
F8, F13, F13 Pro, V6, V11 Pro, and VF13 Pro.
Okay, quite a range. And what kind of malware are we talking about?
A real mix, actually. Researchers found backdoors, info stealers.
Stuff designed to steal credentials or system info.
Right. And also cryptocurrency stealers.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, things like RATs, remote access Trojans, and other general Trojans. They found 39 detections across 20 unique malicious files.
Cryptocurrency stealers, did they actually manage to steal much?
Well, one crypto wallet linked to the malware allegedly received almost 10 Bitcoin.
10 Bitcoin. Depending on the price when that happened, that could be a lot.
It could easily be pushing towards or even over $1 million. A significant haul.
For malware hidden in printer setup software. That's incredible. What has the company said?
ProColored took the software down from their site, launched an investigation, They basically stated their own systems were likely compromised, which led to the malware getting bundled in.
So it's essentially a supply chain attack, but maybe an unintentional one on their part.
That seems to be the implication. It's a classic example, though, of how malware doesn't just come through emails or bad websites.
It can be right there in the legitimate software that ships with hardware you buy.
Exactly. Even from a seemingly okay source, it just underlines that need for caution, maybe scanning things even when they seem legitimate. You can't always trust what's in the box.
Okay, moving from maybe accidentally compromised hardware to something much more deliberate. State-sponsored cyber espionage.
Yes, this section is about activity linked to the Russian GRU. You might know them as Fancy Bear or APT-28.
A well-known group. What have they been up to recently?
Well, since around 2022, the focus has been on targeting logistics operations for espionage purposes.
Spying on logistics. Why?
Specifically, spying on organizations, dozens of them, in Western and NATO countries that are involved in transporting foreign aid to Ukraine.
Ah, okay, so they want to track how aid is moving. Air, sea, rail.
Precisely. Monitor the flow of support. And the targets were quite broad.
Not just shipping companies, then.
No. Logistics providers, yes, but also tech companies involved, government organizations, across defense, transport, maritime, air traffic management, IT services.
A wide net. And geographically.
Multiple countries.
Yeah.
The U.S. definitely, but also many in Europe. Bulgaria, Czech Republic, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, Moldova, Netherlands, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, and Ukraine itself.
That's extensive. Was there anything particularly unusual about their methods?
One detail really stands out. They weren't just hacking computer networks, they were also apparently monitoring CCTV cameras at border crossings.
CCTV cameras to physically watch aid movements.
That seems to be the goal. Blending cyber intrusion with actual physical surveillance feeds, it shows a pretty comprehensive intelligence gathering effort.
Wow, and how are they getting into the networks in the first place?
A mix of common techniques. Credential guessing, brute force attacks, spear phishing email.
The usual suspects. Any specific vulnerabilities exploited?
Yes, they mentioned exploiting known flaws, specifically CVE 2023-23397, which affected Microsoft Exchange. Also, vulnerabilities in Roundcube webmail and WinR.
So, patching is key, as always. What else did they target?
Corporate VPNs and vulnerable SQL databases were also on their list for initial access points.
And once they were inside a network, what did they do?
Typical lateral movement stuff, using tools like PSCZAC and Impacket to move around. They manipulated email permissions, likely to read sensitive messages.
And tried to cover their tracks?
Yes, using Tor and commercial VPNs to hide their activity while they monitored communications.
This really paints a picture of cybersecurity as, well, a key part of modern conflict, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's not just about military targets anymore. It's the critical infrastructure, the logistics, the supply chains that support broader efforts.
And it shows the sophisticated state actors are using everything they can, known digital weaknesses, phishing, even physical cameras.
Right. It's a clear signal that any organization involved, even indirectly, in supporting these kinds of critical functions is a potential target. They need to be prepared.
Okay, finally, let's tackle the big elephant in the room, perhaps. The role of AI in all this cybersecurity mess.
Yeah, the double-edged sword of AI security. That's a good way to put it. The piece we looked at really dives into that central question. Is AI the savior, or is it just a more powerful weapon for the bad guys?
You hear both sides pretty strongly, right? The optimists are saying AI will revolutionize defense, automate threat hunting, predict attacks.
Make everything faster and better. And then the pessimists are, well, pretty worried. They see AI supercharging attackers.
Creating more convincing phishing, finding vulnerabilities faster, making malware smarter.
Exactly. More sophisticated, more scalable attacks. And the reality, as the article suggests, is probably somewhere in between.
It's both.
Likely, yeah. Being AI secure isn't just about defending against AI-powered attacks coming from outside.
It's also about how you use AI internally, managing those risks.
Precisely. Like prioritizing security when you're automating data collection with AI. You still need anonymization, strong access controls, zero trust, MFA, all that good stuff. Don't just rush for speed.
And vetting third-party AI tools seems critical too.
Hugely. They mentioned the Change Healthcare United health breach as an example. A weakness in a third party you rely on can have massive knock-on effects. Due diligence is key.
And keeping the AI models trained with the latest data seems obvious, but crucial.
Non-negotiable. The threat landscape changes constantly, so the AI's knowledge needs to keep pace.
So what do these AI secure platforms actually do? What features are important?
Real-time monitoring is a big one. Using AI and machine learning to analyze activity, network traffic, logs,
Yeah.
trying to spot vulnerabilities or predict attacks before they happen.
Moving from reactive to proactive?
Exactly. And then enabling immediate action, automated flagging of threats, maybe even automated initial responses so security teams can react faster and focus on the bigger issues.
Automation helps reduce the manual workload and, human error.
It definitely can. But, and this was stressed, human oversight remains absolutely critical. AI isn't foolproof.
Good point. What about integration? Does that matter?
Yeah, the idea of system cohesion. Platforms that integrate across your tech stack. They use Microsoft Security Copilot working with Azure, Defender, Office, as an example, can reduce the overall attack surface. Yeah. Fewer gaps for attackers to exploit compared to lots of separate, siloed tools.
Okay. So the main takeaway here is that becoming AI secure is ongoing.
It's a constant process.
Right.
Proactive analysis of how AI can help your defenses, but
Mhm.
also critically, how attackers are using it against you.
And you have to adapt defenses just as fast as the attackers are developing new AI tricks.
That's the challenge.
Mm.
AI can be an incredibly powerful tool for defenders, but we have to assume the attackers are thinking exactly the same way.
Wow. Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. What does this week's snapshot really tell us?
Well, we've seen ransomware hitting the grocery supply.
A huge lawsuit over software reliability that impacted thousands of travelers.
The theft of deeply sensitive government data affecting potentially millions.
Malware hiding in something as everyday as printer software.
Sophisticated, state-sponsored spying targeting international aid efforts.
And this complex, evolving picture of AI being both a potential shield and a sharper sword.
It just makes it abundantly clear, doesn't it? The cybersecurity landscape is incredibly dynamic. It's interconnected.
Yeah, it touches everything from what's in your fridge, literally, to international relations, to the software running on your laptop.
There was that quote from one of the expert pieces, wasn't there?
Yeah, about protecting digital systems no longer being optional.
Right. And modernizing how organizations can actually see into their networks improves resilience. It's about ensuring continuity and trust in systems we all rely on, visibility and resilience.
It really is. And I guess it leaves us with a pretty big question, thinking about all these connections.
Like where the next big threat might come from.
Exactly. Given how intertwined everything is, food suppliers, government systems, software vendors, hardware, even physical cameras being monitored, where does the next major vulnerability pop up?
And maybe more importantly, how prepared are we, individually, collectively, to face threats that emerge from these really unexpected, interconnected places?
Definitely something to think about. Keep digging, keep asking those questions.
And stay safe out there.
We'll be back next week for another deep dive.